This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
So the Rebbe Shem comes to Avraham and he promises him children, he promises him Eretz Yisrael, and what was Avraham's reaction? Vehemin b'Hashem v'yachshaveh lo tzedakah. Avraham believed Hashem, and God considered it charity, a good deed. A good deed? What kind of good deed is it? Hashem told him that he's going to have success, he's going to have children, he's going to have Eretz Yisrael. It's a good deed when God tells you something and you believe God. What's the alternative? How could anyone not believe? So the Gemara explains as follows, and maybe we could elaborate. That the truth is, just because Hashem tells you something is going to happen, we find great tzaddikim that didn't believe. Hashem came to Yaakov Avinu, he said, Hashem told Yaakov, I'm going to be with you, I'm going to guard you wherever you go. And what was Yaakov's reaction? Yaakov was very afraid, he was very distressed. Yaakov didn't trust Hashem. And Chazal explained, why didn't Yaakov trust Hashem? Chazal say it's not just that he didn't trust Hashem. He was worried, Shema Yigrei Mached. He was worried, God, I believe that you want to and can do this, but maybe I'll be undeserving. And therefore, Yaakov was afraid, and he was warranted to be afraid. So now we could go back and ask on Avraham. Why did Avraham believe Hashem? Why didn't he react the way that Yaakov Avinu acted? And that is, God, I believe you. I just think I'm unjust. I don't deserve your great chesed. So what was the good deed that Avraham believed Hashem? But doesn't his believing in Hashem mean he had confidence in himself and in his own righteousness? It's a very interesting steer on the Rambam. Because on the one hand, the Rambam says, if God comes to you and he tells you something good is going to happen, does it have to come to be? The Rambam writes in the Hilchos Yesodei Torah, no. The Rambam says the laws of prophecy are such that if God says, go to 7-Eleven, buy a Lucky 7 scratch-off, pick top right, middle, and bottom left, and put in the following code, you can win the lottery. If you go, you might not win the lottery. Why? Shema Yigrei Mached. Like we find by Yaakov Avinu, that he was afraid, despite the fact that God said, I'm going to watch you, Yaakov was afraid. That's the Rambam. However, there's another Rambam. I believe the Rambam in the Shemona Prakim writes that if you want to be a Navi, so anyone out there who wants to be a prophet, listen carefully. If you want to be a Navi, says the Rambam, you do not have to be perfect. Naviim sometimes have deficiencies. For example, Yaakov Avinu was a Navi and he had a deficiency. And what was his deficiency? Vayira Yaakov ma'od, he was afraid. Deficiency, but the Rambam said in Hilchos Yesodei Torah that just because God tells you something good is going to happen, it might not happen because of Shema Yigrei Mached. This is the question of Rabbi Chanan Wasserman. And Rabbi Chanan answers a very important answer. That when God comes to you and he says something good is going to happen, it might not happen because Shema Yigrei Mached. But still, what about good old-fashioned bitachon? Even if God wouldn't have told you anything, you should have trust in Hashem that he's going to take care of you. Good old-fashioned bitachon. So on the one hand, Yaakov was correct in being afraid, in that Hashem's promise doesn't have to come true because Shema Yigrei Mached. But on the other hand, the Rambam is correct in the Shemona Prakim that it was still a deficiency on the part of Yaakov, that even though Shema Yigrei Mached can allow you to lose the promise of Hashem, but what happened to good old-fashioned bitachon? So we could say the same thing by Avraham Avinu, and I think this is what the Gra means. That Vahemin b'Hashem, he trusted in God, Vayachshaveh lo tzedakah, and God considered a charity, a good deed. But what happened? Why wasn't Avraham Avinu afraid, Shema Yigrei Mached? And the answer is, he was afraid Shema Yigrei Mached may jeopardize the promise that Hashem gave him. But Avraham Avinu had what is called good old-fashioned bitachon in Hashem. And for that bitachon, says the Gra, Vehemin b'Hashem, Vayachshaveh lo tzedakah. This was the great charity of Avraham Avinu, that he trusted in the chesed of Hashem, chesed Hashem me'olam v'yad olam, even if Shema Yigrei Mached. Wishing everyone an amazing Shabbos.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.